in this film. Star Force is basically a Kree super secret operative team, kind of like SEAL Team 6, Entertainment Weekly says. Star Force and Jude Law report directly to Ronan the Accuser, who I guess is kind of the head honcho of Star Force. And Ronan at this point isn't exiled, but he's still an upstanding member of Kree society, because in Guardians he was cast out for being a fanatic and a Kree supremacist, but by the time of this movie that hasn't happened yet. Interestingly enough, Law's character, at least as he's described in that Entertainment Weekly article, kind of sounds like he might be a Kree supremacist too, and if we're using that term in space the same way we're using that term on Earth, it's probably not a very heroic adjective. Neither here nor there, he has a tight relationship with Carol, which is maybe mentor-mentee, but they hint that there's some deeper connection there. That's kind of shrouded in mystery, but we know it's going to create some conflict with the rest of Star Force. And that's literally all we know about his character. But at this point, quick aside, let me just say, I do not believe he's playing Mar-Vell after what we've seen in the trailer and in this first little package of promotional material for the film. Now, more could come out later, which is going to point in a different direction or point back to Mar-Vell, but as of right now, I think the evidence is all kind of pointing against it. If he was going to be playing Mar-Vell, the only reason that I can think of that they would want to keep his identity a secret in that case is if they think the Captain Marvel versus Captain Mar-Vell distinction would be too confusing for a general audience. But even then, they could just say that's how, Kree names work. You could say his name is first name Mar, last name Vell. He is Captain Vell. You could refer to him as something different. But there is another character from Captain Marvel's history that I think lines up very, very perfectly, almost, with what we know so far about Law's character, has a long history with the character of Captain Marvel, and some of the other characters that we see in this movie, and that is the villainous Colonel Yon-Rogg. Yon-Rogg in the comics was the arch-nemesis of Mar-Vell. The two met when the Colonel, second in command of the ship Apama, was partnered with a young Mar-Vell, and Rogg basically hated him from the start. He was an idealist, he was confident, he was everything that Yon-Rogg was not, and he actively tried to get Vell killed while they were working together. As part of their ongoing missions in the Kree-Skrull War, Rogg sent Vell to Earth, hoping that the dangerous assignment would lead to his death, but of course it didn't. That's where Mar-Vell became a hero, became known to the people of Earth, and really started interacting with all those fun superheroes there. But in a last-ditch attempt to take out his nemesis, Yon-Rogg kidnapped Carol Danvers to lure Mar-Vell out, but he was defeated by the Captain, of course. However, as a result of that battle, the Psych Magnetron exploded, which actually is what gave Carol her powers, and at that point, Rogg was assumed dead. He wasn't actually dead, but he was assumed dead. There are a couple of interesting things in Yon-Rogg's comic book backstory that kind of hint that this actually might be a match. I mean, the second-in-command thing is really interesting. We know Jude Law's character is second-in-command for Ronan the Accuser, and Yon-Rogg actually in the comics was a henchman of Ronan the Accuser too. We also have a pretty interesting tie-in to Carol Danvers here in his origin, basically Rogg creating the accident that would give Carol her powers. We could see something like that set up in this film too. Maybe Jude Law's character is somehow responsible for the accident that causes Carol to get her powers, and that's why their relationship is so interesting. But back to what we've been given from Entertainment Weekly and from Marvel so far, to me, the biggest red flag regarding Law potentially being Mar-Vell is the description of his character as a Kree supremacist. Specifically in the EW article, Law himself describes his character as driven by a belief in the divine leadership of the Kree people. He calls the character a devout warrior who is both unquestioning and conservative, and that's verbatim. Much of that word choice feels deliberate. I mean, we know the Kree aren't really divine, and their leadership definitely might not be unquestionably good for the galaxy. I mean, just look at Guardians of the Galaxy. They're kind of portrayed as dismissive, elitist, snobby a-holes, basically, who when told that Ronan, who they exiled, is basically murdering innocent people, committing genocide on multiple planets, they're like, it's really not our problem, guys, sorry. In fact, Law's character actually sounds a little bit like, a Kree fanatic, in the vein of what we know Ronan actually does become, maybe to a lesser degree, but that all clashes really strongly with the character of Mar-Vell, at least the Mar-Vell that we knew in the comics, who is always portrayed as more even-keeled, more objectively heroic, even in the face of the Kree government not doing some great things. The trailer didn't give us much more insight into Law's character, as we only see him outright in the one scene, but I say outright because we may have actually seen him twice. First we see him here, but this is just a basic close-up that does really nothing other than confirm, hey, Jude Law is in this movie, and that's it as far as we know, as far as directly seeing Jude Law. But later in the trailer, we see a scene where Carol, in her red, blue, and gold costume, which we assume she's going to get later in the movie, maybe towards the end, she's clenching her fist and she's facing down a figure that looks like it's wearing a suit of armor. Noticeably, the figure doesn't look like a Skrull, but the armor it's wearing also doesn't look human, and my first thought was that if Law isn't the hero that we thought he was, whether he's actually yon-rogg or someone else entirely, the movie might feature a climactic showdown between Carol and her former mentor. But let me know in the comment section down below. I know this is a little bit less of a theory and more of a loose collection of evidence, but I think all the signs are pointing away from Jude Law being Mar-Vell, and much more strongly to him being a character like yon-rogg. That's going to do it for me here, though. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw, subscribe for more great content every single day, and consider turning on your notifications to be alerted every time we upload a new video. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.